Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. Today is Monday, February 12th, and we are here in your speakers. I'm in your speakers, man. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing good. What is happening? What an insane guest today. Insane guest. My guest today is the man, Les Claypool. And I want to give you a little heads up on Claypool here. I interviewed him the same day that I interviewed Tim, which was the day Primus was playing at the Wiltern. And I believe it was the last day of the first run of their tour. But anyway, the way this show works is I just constantly try to hustle guests. And sometimes they happen and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they happen last minute. And this particular day, I was hoping to get Tim on, had Tim scheduled, then it wasn't going to happen, then it might happen, because, you know, he was traveling with his family. So, and then Les said that he would do it, but I had not heard back from anybody, so I just figured, okay, I'm not going to be interviewing Les, and maybe I will interview Tim. So I went to the hotel, and after a few hours, the Tim episode happened. And then while I was doing the Tim episode, I ran into Les, and he goes, oh, yeah, I'll do it too. So all of a sudden, here I am going to do 2 hours of interviewing, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And that could get, you know, blurry. I was going in with about 45 minutes of time, and just scrambling, trying to cover a guy whose career is, you know, 35 years probably, 35 years, trying to cover that in 45 minutes. And most of you that listen to my podcast know that I like to go way deep and get way into the person's career, especially somebody that I am really respect and think the world of. So there was a ton of shit I wanted to ask him, but my brain was scrambling. I had just done an hour with Tim. So it was basically just a conversation, which all the interviews are. But what I'm saying is I was just trying to run things through my brain as he was talking to me. And I would definitely want to, have him on again and dig deep into stuff, especially the Claypool-Lennon Delirium stuff, because that has been over the last year become some of my favorite music. That's just mind-boggling. If you haven't heard any of it, check out like Boomerang Baby or Oxycontin Girl. This stuff is insane. This record, these records that he's put out with Sean Lennon, which is just unbelievable. They got an EP out right now, Lime and the Limpid Green, and then they've got a full length that I just play nonstop over and over that I've got on vinyl. Anyway, I'm glad I got to talk to Les, but I would definitely like to sit down with him again. Probably won't happen because he's so busy, and but what I would like to do is go up to his studio and sit down and rap with him some more. But I was glad to have him on, and I hope you guys enjoy it. What else is happening? I'll get to the interview here in a minute. Donations, thank you, Chicken Duck, for donating to Let There Be Talk. On PayPal, on Patreon. If you guys want to donate, go to patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. Anything helps. I'm still in the middle of the move. Something funny, not funny, but I was talking to the guy. I go to Starbucks all the time, and I was talking to a kid there. I was telling him I was moving. He said, oh, I just moved too. I said, where'd you move? And he goes, oh, I moved into an artist colony. And I was like, what is that? And it was over in East Hollywood. He lives in a place, it's a fairly big size house. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this. I've heard about things like this going down, almost hostel style living, like in San Francisco, where the rents are so high that people that get jobs, they move out and they live in like a studio apartment with like 5-6 people on cots until they start making money and then go off to be billionaires and buy their own stuff. But basically what this guy's doing is there's this like artist colony, and it's 35 people living in a house. And they each pay $695. It's 4 bedrooms, and then they've got a massive living room, and then they've got an attic that's like all computers and workstations and stuff for creating and stuff. And it's a full-blown artist colony, and it's a strange style living, because what makes me bring it up is there's 10 to a bedroom. 10 or 7 or 8, depending on what bedroom it is. And I looked at some video of it. He had video. And they sleep in these sleep pods, basically. So it was like, I don't know if you've ever been in a tour bus, but rock and roll tour buses have about 16 bunks. And the bigger your band gets, the bigger those bunks become. And so instead of 16 bunks, a bus can be configured into 4 bunks, huge ones, or 8 or whatever. Anyway, these bedrooms have like these sleep pods that are like a closed off bunk, and just part of your life inside the sleep pod, like a kind of a curtain rod that you can hang clothes on. And, you close this kind of door, and that's your world. You can't really have any guests. It's just It's wild to think about, man. It would be weird if the world starts getting to be so expensive that not only do you have a roommate, but you have 10 roommates. And what made me think about it was, as I was moving the stuff into my new apartment, I do a bit where I say, I think you should be able to test ride an apartment, find out what kind of asshole you're going to live above or below before you sign a lease. Because you never know what you're going to get. And case in point is, as I'm moving my stuff in during the day, I don't hear anything at the apartment next door at all. But as I was there a couple nights ago moving something in around 11:30, it sounded like somebody rolled a bowling ball down the fucking hallway. And I was like, what the fuck was that? And then I realized it was the neighbor was watching TV with a surround sound system on, and it was just like he's watching some kind of fucking monster movie or something. And I immediately started to panic, like, uh-oh, I haven't even slept in here yet, and man, I can hear this guy fucking like he's in the bedroom, or not the bedroom, but in the living room. So this is going to be interesting, and it's been a little depressing over the last couple of days. I'm not going to lie. I still haven't moved all the way in, so I don't know if maybe that was just a rare thing where he watched a movie on a Saturday night, or am I going to hear him all the time? But, this is one of those things where my apartment, the new one, is great. Everything about it, the location, the parking, the laundry, the size. And now I've just been like, oh, fuck. Man, is this going to... Because I haven't had an apartment in years where I can hear anyone. Place I'm in now, fucking made in the 30s with stucco walls. You don't hear shit. The place before that was a standalone guest house with no joined walls. And the place before that was an old San Francisco apartment. And those San Francisco apartments are like Fort Knox. Anyway, so yeah, a little bummed right now. Not quite sure. It could be no big deal. I haven't moved in. I don't really know yet. But I would hate to be moving in and thinking, holy shit, am I going to have to move again in 12 months? I don't know. What a fucking... that's part of life, though, man. If you don't own, you live in boxes. And those boxes are connected to other boxes, and it's always a mystery what you're going to get. So we'll see what happens, and I'm sure you'll hear about it on here. Let's see. You want to come see me do stand-up this week? I'll be in Santa Barbara with Bill Burr at the Arlington Theater. Arizona House of Comedy, May 17th through the 20th, Arizona House of Comedy. Irvine Improv, I'm coming back for one night only, April 11th. I will be at Irvine Improv headlining. Get tickets now. Buffalo Helium, I'll be there with Steve Renazizi, March 8, 9, and 10. And New York City, I will be at the Stand from March 11th through the 29th. So a lot of great shows coming up. And that's one good thing. Won't be at the apartment a lot in the next couple months. This episode is brought to you by my fantastic sponsor, TLG Auto. If you've got a Porsche or you are thinking about buying a Porsche and you want to get it checked out, make sure you get it checked out. Go see my boys, TLG Auto, over there in the Valley in Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? Porsches, they run forever, and if you keep them well serviced and well tuned and everything, they're gonna do you right. So go see TLG Auto. That's the Porsche Kings, Marco, and you heard him on my podcast before. Check them out on Instagram also. They have a fantastic Instagram. Let me see what it is real quick. Here it is, TLG_auto. And follow them on there. Also, my other great sponsor, you know it, we had them on last week. No Cow Bars. No Cow Bars, the perfect protein, vegan protein bar. And I've been eating them now for about over a year. And if you use the code TALK20 when you go to nocow.com, you'll get 20% off. That's TALK20, TALK20. Use that code and get yourself 20% off on all the great No Cow Bar flavors, or the cookies, or the butter, anything. Check them out, man. Don't get a Snicker bar or any kind of that junk in the middle of the day when you're hungry. Just grab one of these No Cow bars and it'll fuel you up and you'll be perfect for the rest of the day. TALK20 is the code on your checkout on nocow.com. Anyway, let's get into the episode right now. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you are a new listener, subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Also, check out my YouTube channel, Dean Del Rey. The link is in my Twitter feed for the YouTube channel. I love all you guys. Keep the candles lit. Here he is, Les Claypool. All right. Check. Yeah. All right. How are you? Les Claypool is on Let There Be Talk. How are you?
Let there be talk.
Yeah. It looked like you had a thought for a minute. Like, let there be talk.
I had a thought for a minute.
Okay.
It has fleeted.
Well, I got the name because I love AC/DC.
Yeah.
And it was Let There Be Rocks, my favorite AC/DC song. So it's like, oh, Let There Be Talk. That's kind of cool.
I like it. That's good.
Yeah. You listen to AC/DC?
Clever thing. Who didn't listen to AC/DC?
Well, I mean, these days. You don't seem like a guy that would throw on AC.
I don't turn it off when it comes on the radio. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But Let There Be Rock is one of my favorite AC/DC.
That's an incredible record, right?
I saw him with Bon Scott, dude.
So did I. Where'd you see him? Day on the Green?
Day on the Green.
Which one?
It was Monsters of Rock.
Oh, Day on the Green 3.
With
Thin Lizzy.
No Thin Lizzy.
Wait, you had Ted Nugent, Aerosmith, St. Paradise.
Yes.
AC/DC.
There was no Thin Lizzy.
No. Who was the other one?
It was a Mahogany Rush.
Mahogany Rush. Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Man.
There was a lot of vomit. There was a lot back in those days. There was a lot of vomit at those shows. You'd stand in line, and all of a sudden, it was like Moses. There'd be a parting of the sea of people, and you'd look, and there'd be somebody hunched over, and just a huge lake of vomit spreading forth.
The Day in the Greens to me are absolutely my favorite thing ever. You know, because they were so crazy. Like, it was all these bands, and then the big artwork, you know, that they would have up, and you would just go, and it would start at like 10 a.m., right? You know, it was just crazy.
Well, it sounds like a lot of other fests that still exist. They're just not called Day on the Green.
Yeah, but that was like when you're young, it was so new.
When we were young.
Did you
young
go to,
and full of Apple Jacks.
Did you go to any other Day on the Greens?
I don't think I did, actually.
Really?
Not until I was later in life.
Metallica, stuff like that.
You know, that was the only Day on the Green, actually. I went to I was at the Metallica Scorpions one, but I was there. I was working for an audio company, and I was like backstage trying to sell audio gear to the Scorpions.
I wanted to talk to you because, you know, the Bay Area, of course, is such a big deal to me, and all the diversity of music back then. Were you going out and seeing any of the music, like, other than the Stone and the Omni and shit? What were you getting into back then?
Well, I mean, when I started the band in '84, we were Primate.
Right.
And it was basically me and a drum machine, and then I ended up connecting with an old buddy of mine from high school. But yeah, we were in the clubs pretty much every single night. But I really didn't know much about the metal scene. I knew my buddy Kirk from high school was in this band that was doing really well.
Right.
But there was this whole world beat scene that was going on in the Bay Area, and I used to work for a bunch of those bands, like Big City and the Looters and Mackenzie and the Freaky Executives.
Oh, Freaky Executives.
Yeah, and there was this whole scene that was going on during the metal thing that was huge, but then it sort of imploded because of bad management, I think.
There was kind of like three scenes, because at that same time you had like a Huey Lewis kind of Starship, that kind of Marin rock, you know.
But they were like those were people I listened to in high school, you know what I mean?
Right, but I'm saying, like, you know, that kind of songwriting, kind of that kind of music scene was big in the Bay Area. Then you had some metal, and then you had, like you're saying, you know, that all those different scenes were going on in one city.
Yeah.
You know?
No, San Francisco was a way different place than it is now. First of all the places that we used to hang and throw underground parties and whatnot, they're all gazillion-dollar homes now where, you know, Zuckerbergs and people like that live. There were many different scenes, and Broadway itself was crazy. I mean, you had I did a thing a couple weeks ago where sat in with Jello Biafra, and we were talking about the MAB, you know, the Fab MAB.
It was incredible.
And that was Primus's first gig, was at the Mabuhay Gardens in 1984. And
Ness.
Yeah, every time we'd play the MAB, we'd end up getting in fights with the skinheads in the alleyway, because I had this guy who was sort of our manager, who was a big ex-Latino. He was the president of La Raza Unida in San Leandro, and he was just this big, badass Latino dude. And every time we played there, the skinheads would come and try and fuck with us while we were loading our gear, and he would just smash them.
That's crazy, right?
It was crazy.
That Fab Mab is so bizarre, because you got to think about it. It's just this like Filipino food restaurant, and then you start like doing concerts once a week or whatever, punk concerts, and then it becomes a full-blown punk rock mecca.
Yeah.
And there's Ness in the middle of it, and maybe like Paul Rudd or other guys, you know. But that whole scene was crazy. And then right across the street, you had the Stone. So it was just so insane.
You had the Rock on Broadway
upstairs.
Chi-Chi.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and then all the strip
Morty's.
clubs. It was the place, man.
Yeah, it really was, man. It'll never happen again there, you know, unless there's a big earthquake and shakes everyone out of there, you know. What now? When you first, because I don't start seeing Primus till about, you know, the Omni shows and stuff, you know, once I'm working there and stuff. But when you're starting out, I mean, the band is so crazy original sounding. Are people just looking at you like, what the hell is this?
Oh yeah, we were the weirdo guys that couldn't really play with anybody. And the thing is Michael Bailey.
Oh, Michael Bailey from BGP.
Yes, but he booked a Berkeley Square back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And he was one of the first guys to kind of get behind Primus. And he would book us with all these crazy gigs. You know, we played with the Swans, we played with the Popo Pies. He would just put us on these gigs to see if it would work.
Right.
Because he liked us. And Primus was a little, you know, for lack of a better term, we were a little weirder back then. You know, it wasn't, before Larry and Tim showed up, it wasn't as heavy. It was more kind of like the Sausage record. It was more just kind of quirky and angular. It was like, you know, Talking Heads meets Crimson meets the B-52s or something. I mean, it was trippier than it is now.
Right.
Less forward. But so we were playing these little clubs and we had this following, but it was this slow build to where we finally got.
Yeah.
We started playing the Omni and filling up the Omni.
Yeah. I mean, by then you guys are just completely like selling it out.
But we were just the weirdo guys for a long time.
It you know, because like what I come from is like, you know, you're getting a band. You're not looking to get famous, but you're trying to write songs that people can grab onto, and you know, not even hits, but something catchy or whatever. But I love that you just come from a completely different world, you know. And of course, like, I love Tom Waits. We were talking about it. There's these guys out there, and you're just like, oh yeah, like, you know, Faith No More early on, that was kind of pretty original also, you know. I just love that stuff, and here it is a zillion years later, and it's rolling. Like, on paper it would look like, yeah, that's not going to be around, you know.
Oh yeah, well no, I remember. I like telling the story. Years ago, we had a meeting with our attorney at the time, and we were being offered a publishing deal.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting around. He's like, you know, for this publishing deal to not make sense for you financially, you would have to sell over 100,000 records. And he looks at us and goes, you don't honestly believe you're going to sell over 100,000 records, do you? And we're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a lot of records. And we didn't do the deal, and thank God we didn't, because we've sold millions of records. But, you know, even we at the time thought, oh yeah, we never thought we'd be on the radio. It was a big deal when we got on like the college radio, and that was a big thing for us. But we never it's definitely not MTV or any of that stuff. We never, you know, I was listening to, like, you know, old Public Image Limited shit.
Right.
John Lydon was one of my heroes. You know, that was the type of shit. That's what we were into, especially early on.
What about like Larry or you know, Bootsy? Was that like your early groundwork for the bass playing and the style? Because no one plays.
I mean, early on, Geddy Lee was my hero when I was in high school.
Oh, Geddy Lee, yeah.
But then, as I got a little older, I started discovering guys like Stanley Clarke and Larry Graham and Bootsy. Everybody knew Bootsy. Shit, Bootsy was in your face.
Of course, but man, I mean, you're like, your approach is like completely insane. Like, I mean, it's so original, you know. And then if I heard something like that, I'd be like, well, how do I put some lyrics to that? You know what I mean? And the structuring of the songwriting and everything.
Well, is that a question?
Well, no, I'm just saying, it's just so original, man. It's like, how did you, you know, go around songwriting is what I mean, around that. Did you ever think like, well, I got to get some other guys here and we'll write some songs, or that was just how you were going to write the songs?
Well, I used to write songs in earlier bands I was in, and I never liked the way the singers would sing them. So I had to start taking the mic, and I you know, my dad used to tell me all the time. He'd probably still tell me this. He'd say, you know, you can't sing for shit, but you can sure play that bass, you know. And so I've never thought of myself as a vocalist. I always thought as a singer. I always thought of myself as like the narrator. I was like, you know, trying to be more like Mel Blanc than anything, you know. So guys like listening to John Lydon and even Jello back in the day, it's like, well, I can do that, you know. That's something I can, you know, call me up after midnight, you know, I can do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And so that was more my approach to create these characters and be these characters in the songs. But so as far as writing, you know, and I say this all the time too, the bass just happens to be the crayon I picked out of the box. You know, I still, if I was playing accordion or guitar or whatever the hell, I would still be writing similar things. It would just have a different timbre to it. you know. So I don't really think of the bass unless I'm playing if I'm playing with Tom Waits or something. I have to play a traditional part, or if I'm doing a gig, or even doing this thing with Sean where we're playing Sean Lennon, where I'm doing more this kind of retro psychedelia shit. I think a little more traditionally, but with Primus, it was always here's what's in my head. I'm trying to get it out, and the bass just happens to be what I'm the most comfortable with. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to think of my bass as this instrument that has these parameters on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know,
it's like, you know, it's like painting a painting with a banana or something. That's what I've been doing.
That's exactly what I love about it. That's what I'm saying. It's just so like, wow, you know, and like I hadn't seen you guys in years, and then when I saw you in Austin, it was just so, it was like so monumental to me again, like, because, you know, I saw you guys 3 times in 1 year. I saw you guys with
far too many times.
Yeah,
more than I see us.
No, but I saw you guys with Tool in San Diego a couple years back. That was the day David Bowie died. And I walked out of there, and Tool is, you know, one of my favorites and stuff. But I couldn't stop talking for like 6 months to people like, you gotta go see Primus, man. Like, because I feel like there's so many bands that people lose track of. They're like, those guys still around? You know what I mean? You guys are still doing great.
I get that when I go to the hardware store.
Yeah.
What have you been doing lately there, Claypool?
Yeah, right? But, I mean, I was, like, seriously blown away, man. And now this tour, it just really, like, knocked me out, man. It definitely had some heavy psychedelia vibe, and the new record's incredible. Did you think that, you know, once you get into that kind of Grateful Dead scene, does that steer you into that kind of psychedelia area?
Was I in the Grateful Dead scene?
Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you did play with some of the guys, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, when I put Frog Brigade together,
right,
I kind of fell into the jam scene.
Exactly.
Which was very cool to me because I was coming out of a fucking awful place, which was... You know, we were playing, you know, it was this whole, like, the mid to late 90s, that new metal thing.
Oh, yeah.
Rap metal.
All that stuff.
It was just like, oh, God. And it was more about, you know, what kind of hat you were wearing and whether you wore it sideways. And it wasn't, and all of a sudden I was being embraced by this scene that didn't give a shit what you looked like or how old you were, how you were dressing. They wanted to see you play your instrument.
Right.
And they wanted to see you take chances with your instrument. And I was like, well, holy shit, this is incredible. And so there were a few bands in that scene that I, you know, got bands like Government Mule, great band, amazing band, you know,
incredible.
But you don't think of them as like, you know, it's not nothing against the Grateful Dead, but
right.
It's not the Grateful Dead.
Well, it's just the music scene.
It's how you approach your instrument as opposed to not necessarily a demographic of music or style. It's more how you approach your instrument, and I thought that was incredible.
Yeah, I believe that. Like, I hated the Grateful Dead the whole time growing up because we grew up in the Bay Area, so, you know, it was just shoved down my throat. And now I realize, oh, I should have been around this the whole time, because not necessarily the hippie thing or whatever, but the players and the whole love of music is what really blows my mind. People are serious music fans.
Well, I mean, I know all those guys, and they're great guys. I mean, it's funny because we always had Primus has used their sound company since the get-go, Ultrasound, which was Grateful Dead's sound company for years, and they still use them. And very good friends of mine, some of them aren't here anymore, were a big part of the early sound with them, and a lot of their crew guys have all been. So it's funny because Lur was the big Deadhead. He was a huge Deadhead.
That's what he said.
And I went to maybe 2 shows while Jerry was alive, just with Lur, just to hang. And we were hanging at the soundboard, smoking weed with the sound guys. And shit, you know. And it's like he was getting pissed at me. He's like, I can't believe your first Dead show. You're hanging out at the soundboard and going backstage and eating Jerry's hot dogs. You know. And it's like, well, what the hell do I know? I know these guys through all the crew guys.
Right.
So. And then later meeting Bobby, who's a great guy. He was in my film, you know, and I've gone fishing with Billy Kreutzmann in Hawaii, and Mickey lives down the street from me. You know, I just know these guys from the scene, but was never a big follower of the Dead. You know, it's just I didn't go down that path.
Right.
But what they've done for music and the history of music and pushing forward different acts throughout the years and supporting things and their political message too. It's a pretty spectacular accomplishment, and what they continue to do is pretty spectacular, whether you like that music or not.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. I feel like they're damn good people, and most of the people that are into them are pretty decent people too. You know, you're living up in Sebastopol now, right? How long you been there?
23 years.
23 years. What made you go up there? Was it like you're at Prairie Sun and you're like, I got to go up here?
No, I had a record at the time that was doing pretty well, an album called Pork Soda.
Yeah.
And I was living in Berkeley with my wife. We weren't married yet, and her twin sister. And
she got a twin sister?
Yeah. She lives here, actually. She'll be here tonight. But I was flying airplanes and shit, learning how to fly, and I knew I'm going to spend my money on something stupid. I better buy. So I thought, I'm going to buy a piece of property just to go on the weekends, maybe retire someday. And we just stumbled across this amazing place out in West Sonoma County, and just fell in love with it and moved there and raised our kids there. So
it's like an old 70s home or something?
Yeah, it's like Boogie Nights.
Yeah. Now, what was the history of it? Because I love architecture and all that stuff.
A wealthy doctor built it in the early 70s, so it's like the epitome of every 70s cliche you can think of. Lots of lava rock, multicolored tiles, and I haven't changed a thing. When I moved in, people are asking me, "Oh, so are you going to remodel?" I was like, "Hell no." Well, we hear it's dark in 70s. I was like, I love dark in 70s. I mean, it's like a time capsule for 1973.
That's right. Now, your kids, once they start getting older, are they going like, "What's up with our house, Dad?" Like, we go to other houses, and it's
they love it.
Yeah, that's great, right? Like their dad's left, so that's our house.
Yeah, they love the house.
And then you got that great tour bus too. That's kind of matches with the house.
Yeah, I'm not very bright. I come from a long line of auto mechanics, and so I'm a sucker for I like old machinery. I like old cars. I like old boats. So everything I have is kind of old.
Right.
And unfortunately, when things are old, no matter how great a quality they are, they will break more often than new shit.
Absolutely.
So I have all these old Chryslers because I love Chryslers, and they're all in various stages of disrepair. I have old boats, and
what kind of boats? Like those old I
have an old Bertram 31.
Oh wow, that kind of stuff, huh?
Yeah.
And do you take it out?
Oh, I take it out all the time.
Where do you go?
I might sell it though, because my kids are grown up, so it's too big a boat for just me now, and I go a lot by myself.
Yeah.
So.
You go out fishing?
Yeah, I'm out in the ocean a lot. I took Sean out. We were crabbing a couple weeks ago.
Sean Lennon?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And we almost sank.
What?
Well, we hit a crab line, so we got stuck out there and had to get towed in. So the next day when we went to drop the pots, I'm noticing I'm bilging. I'm like, what the hell's going on? We're dropping pots. We're out in the ocean dropping pots. It was a nice day, and I'm seeing the bilge keeps going off. I'm like, what the hell? And then I see another bilge going off. I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah.
So I lift the hatch, and water's just pouring in right at the dripless shaft. And I was like, yeah, shit. So we had to race back in, and we figured it out once we got back in. But it was pretty hairy there for
a bit. Man. That would have been classic footage, right? You guys just sinking out there.
It would have been suck footage. It would have been no footage because nobody would have found us.
Do you go?
You don't last long out there in that water.
Yeah, fuck. Out on the bay?
It's not in the bay. It's out in the ocean.
Out in the ocean. Oh, wow. Where do you launch out of? Like, do you go into, like, out the Petaluma River or something?
No, that's the bay. I'm out in the ocean, Bodega Bay.
Oh, Bodega Bay. I got you.
Yeah.
Wow. I've only gone out on a boat a few times just to go out. I go out and look at the great white sharks and out there off the coast of Baja, get in the cages,
Yeah.
dive with these great white sharks. It's pretty incredible to see these dinosaurs go by you.
Yeah, I don't get in the water with them, but I see them quite a bit when I'm out there.
Oh, you see them out there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're out there just
I usually see like one every other year or so.
Hunting seals.
Just cruising around most of the time.
Yeah, cruising around, man.
Yeah.
You got a studio at your house?
Yeah, that's where we recorded. We recorded all our records since 1995, I think.
Wow, that's fucking great. When did you start working with Tom Waits? We were talking about you played on Bone Machine record, like my favorite record that he did, and Mule Variations also, right?
Yeah, I'm on a bunch of his stuff. He was the voice of Tommy the Cat back in the day for us.
Oh, wow.
And we just became friends after that. So I turned him on to some musicians, and he'd have me come play on some of his records. And, you know, he's a good guy. His wife and my wife are good friends.
I mean,
We're all good friends.
That's incredible, right? Like,
great people.
To play on that record, man, that record's a classic.
Pretty much all Tom Waits records are classic.
It really is, man. That guy is a gem, man. You know? When you put those on, it's like, to me, it's like Primus. Like, nobody sounds like that, you know? And if they do, you go, oh, this guy's trying to be Tom Waits. It's like when people are trying to do Andy Kaufman, you know what I mean? Like a comic. And they're going, oh, this guy's just doing Kaufman, you know?
Yeah.
Are you into comedy?
I'm way into British comedy, actually.
British comedy.
I used to collect all these old, now everything's online, but back in the day, in the early 90s, whenever we'd go to Europe, me and Laura would buy up all the old Young Ones and the Blackadders and the comic strips and anything with Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson.
Yeah.
Rabsy Nesbitt, which is Scottish, which is very hard to follow, but it's pretty intense. And then Mighty Boosh, I'm a big fan of the Boosh. Noel Fielding's a buddy of mine.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the Young Ones, man. That shit was so amazing.
Yeah, man. Did you ever see Bottom? Bottom was was one of their things they did after that.
No.
Yeah.
What was that?
It was Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson living together in an apartment as like these two kind of loser dudes. It was very cool.
I bet it's on YouTube. I got to see that. I love my favorite one of Young Ones is where I think it's Neil when it says don't put your head outside the train, and he's like, oh, I wonder why, and then
that was Adrian.
Oh yeah, knocks his head off at the stars. It's rolling around and he's kicking his own head. Oh fuck, man, that shit is great. Have you seen
Motorhead was in that episode?
Yeah, Motorhead was in that episode, man. They play in the living room.
Yep.
Have you seen Burr live? Because I know Bill Burr came to the show.
Yeah, I met him at the Cluster Fest because I was doing a jam thing there, and then I saw him do his thing. I'd seen his. We were on tour, and I showed up at a gig, and somebody goes, "Hey, Bill Burr was here last night, and he left this for you." And it was a DVD, so I watched it with my son. This was a few years ago.
Oh, that's cool, man. We were so. Like, we had such a great time watching your show, man.
Yeah, how long have you known that dude?
I've known him about, I've been doing comedy 8 years, so 7 years or so, because I met him like about a year, maybe 2 in. You know, somebody turned me on to him. They're like, oh, I remember it was this guy. I asked him who his favorite comic was, my buddy Jay Davis, and he goes, oh, Bill Burr. I go, I don't know him. And he's like, oh, watch this. And he showed me that Philly rant where, you know, they're booing all the comics, and he gets up there and he's like, you guys are gonna fucking boo these legends, and he lays into them for like 20 minutes.
I never saw that.
Oh, I gotta send it to you. And he's counting down the minutes. He's like, I'm doing all my minutes, fuck you. And then he'd be like, you fake ass town, whether your sports stars are phony like Rocky. And then he's like, 10 more minutes, and he's clicking the minutes as he's insulting him. And somewhere around the 20 or 15 minute mark, he starts winning him over, you know, and it changed his career. Huh. You know, he told me that he walked off and he was thinking like, oh man, that was horrible. And everybody looked at it as like, wow, he fucking won him over. It's got to be a lot like early on when you're playing on these shows. You're talking about Michael Bailey putting in, and people are looking at you like, what the fuck is this, you know? And then you start to win them over, and they go, oh, all right, I love this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Primus is it's a acquired taste. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
Which always has been. But you know, I mean, I think it's a whole different beast, though. I mean, I don't see how the hell you guys can go do the stand-up shit. That just I don't know if I could say the same thing every night over and over. It's just it's hard for me to. I can't do that. I mean, maybe I could. I guess.
Well, you do songs.
Yeah, but it's different every night. We change it up.
Well, you change up the arrangement of a song, but you're playing the songs, right? Like right. you might riff in and out. Same with the bit. That you know the bullet points of the bit, But to get your brain, so you're not like a robot, you weave in and out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
By looking at the crowd and talking about what's in front of you.
But I mean, still, you're out there. When I go out there and I crack jokes, and sometimes it works, and sometimes a lot of times it doesn't. And most of my friends and family know me as the guy who's constantly dropping the dad jokes on everybody's head. I got there's a thing in my hand that separates. It's like my force field. So when things start going shitty with me, and I told Bill this story of when I just went out and dropped 3 insulting bombs on Minneapolis, Milwaukee. There you go. One night by mistake. And he was laughing his ass off at me. But when all was said and done, I could just play my bass. And hey, well, that's why you're here. That's why we're here to see you, Les, is for that thing, not shut your mouth. And so that just going out with a mic in your hand, it's I got to give it up to you guys, because sometimes you're in a shitty mood, and going and trying to be funny. Yeah, it sounds like a.
Sometimes you take it on stage with you, too, and then you start and you go, oh, I'm fucking angry right now. I got to figure this out. Like, you'll just come out like, a couple nights ago, it's like, fuck that new Star Wars. No new weapons all these years, still a lightsaber, and I'm going off on it because I just spent 20 and saw it, and I was like, that thing sucks. And then I realized they're all looking at me like, this guy's ranting about Star Wars.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, it was
I
just...
the last one.
I did too.
Rogue One was awesome.
I love them all. It was just...
Everybody died, and there was no cutesy... Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was like the first Star Wars made for adults.
I know, right? It's like, this new one felt a little kids-like and a soft story, and I was like, oh, fuck this thing. And then I realized I'm 3 minutes in, and they're just staring at me. I go... Yeah, all right. So that's my Star Wars rant. But I played music for years, and I thought doing comedy was going to be like the same. And then I stepped on stage, and I go, oh, I'm starting all over again.
Well, also, I think, everybody, it's like film.
Yeah.
My dad doesn't know a lot about music. He just doesn't, so doesn't have as strong of an opinion. But everybody has an opinion about film and comedy.
I know, right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And music. I mean, look at this.
Much music.
Those YouTube comments. Just people out there,
Well, there's some, but I'm just saying. I don't think this is,
Yeah, movie reviewers. I see people.
I'm not even talking about reviewers. I'm talking about the average Joe.
No, that's what I'm saying. I even see people while you're watching a preview at the movies. You'll see a guy be like, he's already thumbs down at like 2 up in front of you, eating a bucket of popcorn. Like, nah. They're already reviewing it before they've even seen it. But yeah, everybody's got to, like I always tell people, I don't like Goodfellas. I'm a Godfather guy, and they go crazy over it.
But why can't you be both?
Well, I do.
Is it like
I enjoy
the A's
both.
And the Giants. Or?
No, I enjoy both. But when people say, "What do you think is the best films ever made?" and I always say, Godfather 1 and 2, Jaws, Raging Bull. And they're like, no Goodfellas? And I'm like...
At least you got Scorsese in there.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, that Raging Bull is a masterpiece.
What about Dr. Strangelove and Facing the Crowd, man? Come on.
Are you a movie guy?
I'm an old movie guy. I mean, yeah, I'm a movie guy, but I mean, Frank Capra and Elia Kazan and Kubrick, those are my guys.
Kubrick, man. Wow. Did you go to that display? Like, they had all the stuff from all the movies?
No, I didn't even hear about it.
Oh, man, they had, like, the Shining model... They had the stuff from the twins' dresses.
I went snowboarding at the Shining Hotel, man.
Oh, wow. They're doing comedy there now.
They are up on Mount Hood?
Yeah, at that hotel, man. Like, they're doing, like, 4 shows a year, and, like, they get, like, a really big comic, like, let's say Patton Oswalt, and then all his fans come, and they do a weekend in the hotel. He does comedy, Q&A, and all that. It'd be cool.
Who's the biggest hotshot up-and-coming comic right now, you think?
Me.
Yeah?
Just said that. Well, I mean, some guys that have a lot of heat on him right now would be like Sebastian Maniscalco. He's the Italian guy. Have you seen him? I'll give you some stuff. Of course, Burr is probably at the very top right now. As far as the biggest, people going. I mean, he's absolutely exploded from when I've known him to now. Maron, of course, with his podcast and his comedy. Those are the big dudes. Rogan, you know. And then there's there's of course alt scene and all different kind of scenes. There's guys coming up in that scene like Rory Scovel and guys like that are great, but they're not huge, but they can go sell out anywhere. Kyle Kinane, guys like that go around. They just do their own shows. That's a cool scene. They just come into town, do a club, and then Dave Chappelle is probably like like at the all-time giant. He did like 4 specials this year. 4. That's 4 1 hours. Most people do like 2 in their whole career. He did 4 in a year. You watch comedy on Netflix?
Not really.
No. I can't imagine.
Like stand-up?
Yeah.
No, not really.
I can't imagine you sitting around like, let's fire up some Netflix.
I tried showing my nephew some old Steve Martin, like the cruel shoes, but like arrow through the head, and he lasted literally like at one point he's like, "Can I leave now?" I was like, "Wait, man, this is Steve Martin," But,
yeah. You are definitely an old soul, right? Like
old soul.
You're from like another time almost.
Well, I mean, when I was a kid,
me too.
You can ask Lur. I mean, The Jerk was the greatest movie ever made.
Oh, The Jerk was great. I was just quoting it last night. I was like, all I need are these boots, these jeans, and this flannel. I always say that, and then I go.
But I mean, like then you look at someone like Noel Fielding. I think Noel Fielding's fucking brilliant, genius. Did you ever watch Mighty Boosh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, so after that, he did Noel Fielding's luxury comedy.
Oh, wow.
And he showed me some of that stuff, and it was insane. It was like Fellini comedy.
Wow.
I couldn't believe he was like, oh, yeah, I got bad reviews, it didn't do very well, blah, blah, blah. And I watched it, and I was like, dude, first of all, fuck you. Just the fact that you got this onto mainstream television, you are a champion, because it was amazing. It was one of those things that got through that it's so out. And when somebody pushes the parameters like that, to me, that's unbelievable.
Well, that's exactly...
taking that position of power and pushing the parameters.
That's how I feel about your music. You know what I mean? Also, I think there's a hero behind the artist, too, that had the vision to, like, say, a Tom Wally that signed you guys. You know what I'm saying? Or whoever let him put out this special or whatever, like... Those are also fucking geniuses, or whatever you want to call them, where they got the push through, where the art got out there, where it wasn't a hit song or a hit comic or a hit film or whatever. What about Andy Kaufman? Did you get into him?
I mean, to an extent, yes.
That guy, I thought...
I knew him as Latka back in the day, So.
I think that guy was beyond genius because he never broke that wall, It was... you never knew. You're like, is that, what the fuck is up? I mean, he worked at Jerry's Deli after Taxi just to work at a deli. That shit is crazy to me. You know what I mean? And then to do that Tony Clifton character all the time, like he was another dude. No one knew. That shit is beyond. And no one still didn't know for a long time, And then you go like, oh, wow, that was really him. For a while you're like, I heard it's him, but it might not be him.
But we did a gig in New Orleans and Tony Clifton was...
Well, if you watch...
What's the story with
there's
that?
a great documentary out right now called Jim and Andy, and it's Jim Carrey. It was a documentary shot while he was doing Man on the Moon, And you find out finally, or most people knew, but I didn't know, Tony Clifton was a character he created, but then his buddy, who was his partner at the time on all the stuff they would do, became Tony Clifton also. So he could send him to places where he didn't want to go. So Tony Clifton's booked in Tahoe. He would send the other guy, and he would go and do all this rude shit and stuff, and they thought it was Andy. So they let him get away, like, Andy's so wacky. But it wasn't him. He wasn't even there. Huh. So it's pretty cool. That's pretty genius shit. You couldn't do that now with, like, social media and everything, You're not a social media guy, right?
My version of social media is I go on Craigslist and look for old car parts.
Yeah. I love Craigslist and
Craigslist
YouTube.
is the greatest, man. That's how I found my bus.
Yeah. That bus is incredible. What year is it? 85?
87.
87. And it's, what brand is it?
It's Prevo, man.
Prevo, man, it's so good. And how many miles you got on it now?
It's like a couple 100,000.
And you drive your own bus when you're on tour, right?
Yes. Well, when I'm on tour, I have a driver, but getting to and from places, to and from the tour, I drive it, and on days off, I drive it.
It's so great. I was watching the videos. You're just driving. Now, wait, you have a wine, right? Or what do you got?
Yeah, we make wine.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I just talked to Tim about his cider, and you got a wine. Is it at your house, or is it you got your own vineyards? What do you got?
We've been making wine since '07. Basically, we live in the mecca of Pinot Noir,
right?
Up West Sonoma County. So we just kind of fell into it, and we've been doing it for a while. My wife, now that the kids are grown up, it's been a good transition for her to focus her energy, as opposed to pining over children that have moved away. And it's been great. She's doing a great job, and we make some of the best Pinot you can get in Northern California. And the reason I can say that is because Ross Cobb and Katie Wilson are our winemakers, and Ross Cobb is one of the most celebrated Pinot makers in Northern California. And the only reason we got him is because he was a bass player and a fan. Now he's a good buddy of mine, but he's a nut too. He's very, very. He's like the Andy Kaufman of Pinot Noir. How's that?
Wow. You talked to Jerry. He makes wine too from Devo. I had him on. And
I know Jerry. I haven't talked to him in a long time.
He's a huge wine guy, and he's got his own wine going.
Yeah.
Like, he's been doing it for years now. Were you a Devo guy? Because I was absolutely obsessed with Devo growing up, and I thought that a lot of your videos kind of had a Devo vibe. Their stuff was way out there, you know? Was that one of your influences?
Well, when I first saw Devo, I thought I was a kid, and I thought it was the weirdest, creepiest shit I'd ever seen in my life.
You see him on Saturday Night Live, the yellow suits, that?
Yeah, but like those early videos with this, like the spastic kid bouncing around, it scared me. I was a little kid, but Satisfaction and all that we thought was amazing.
Yeah. I thought that shit was just mind-boggling. I still do. I think it's one of the greatest bands ever to come out, man. It was just to think about these guys are in Ohio, you know, and they put together this band and they're playing bars, you know, like that's another band like Primus. Like there's no way you think that's going to get out of Ohio, and they become one of the biggest bands ever in the 80s, you know. Of course, Whip It, but all that stuff before it is just crazy, you know. The videos blow my mind. That bougie boy shit. You watch it now, it's like, whoa, there's some edgy shit on it.
Well, it was always edgy.
Yeah, absolutely. What about your basses? Who makes those?
Carl Thompson made the majority of my basses, but I started making some a few years ago with a friend of mine that I've known since high school that are a design of mine. So.
And he just happened to be a guitar builder?
Well, he's been building them since high school.
Wow.
He was like the local guy. He built me some basses over the years. He built my banjo bass, built an upright for me, and blah, 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 you know. So, good guy, great builder. So we've been working on these instruments.
And no Olympics ever, huh? I thought that for sure you would be an Olympic guy.
No, never played Olympics.
Wow. I looked at your stage setup, and it looks like there's like nothing up there as far as amp-wise. Just a few boogie cubes, and then some rack stuff.
Yeah, well, the boogie cubes, those things put out some sound.
Oh, it sounds incredible, but I was pretty floored. Like, whoa, that's it, huh? Like, did you have monster setup before and then just whittle it down? Because Larry's stuff is small also.
No, I mean, we've had, sometimes when you see the monster stuff, I don't know if you realize it, but there's a lot of empty cabs on the stage. But I have it's a pretty kicking rig. I mean, that shit gets loud and it's powerful. It may not look like much, but there's a lot going on there.
Oh man, it sounds incredible.
It's got some balls.
So this is it. This is tomorrow night's the last night, right, of the tour until later on or something. You're gonna keep going on this record, or?
Yeah, I mean, we're going out this summer. It's a big tour with Mastodon. So.
Oh wow.
Wow. It's gonna be like a couple months.
Well, that's gonna be incredible. So it's you guys and Mastodon and anybody else?
There's an opening band, but I can't remember who it is.
Wow, that's gonna be fire. And you guys doing all the states?
Correct.
Like outdoors or something?
Yeah.
Wow. And then are you going to be doing the same show? Because you got a lot of it's like, it's got to be in the dark, this show, right?
Well, it is going to be in the dark.
Oh, it'll be nighttime by the time I got you. It's not like a daytime, start at like 4.
Well, somebody's starting at 4, but it ain't me.
Oh, I love you, Les. You're hilarious, man. You got any, before I let you go, do you got any great memories of the Stone? Like, because it was like, it's such a magic club, I think, in the Bay Area, you know?
I had to escape from the Stone one time because they I think they wanted to beat me down. But back in the old days, you used to have to sell tickets.
Yep,
and that was
that's
part
right.
of the deal,
Pay to play.
So, I was like a responsible guy. I had a job, I had a checking account, So I showed up, and it was Bobby Corona, man. I remember that guy. So, okay, how many tickets you sell here? And I was like, oh, we sold X amount of tickets, and here's the leftover tickets, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay, well, where's the money? And I said, okay, and I got my checkbook out, get ready. Well, no, we're not taking any check. I was like, well, what are you talking about? This is all I got.
Yeah.
I'm writing it. So he sent in this other guy. I don't remember who the hell it was, but he sends in this other guy that was going to, kind of strong arm me or intimidate me or whatever. And I was like, look, this is what I got. Well, we don't take checks. I said, well, this is what I got. Like, you can take my check, or what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
How the hell do I know? So I wrote the check and left it there, and he's like, well, let me go check with such and such. And while he went and checked with such and such, I just left. So,
and you didn't play the gig?
No, we played the gig.
Oh, I got you.
It was after the gig.
After the gig, got you.
Yeah, so, and the check was fine, but
they
were trying to give me the old...
Primus was doing pay to play back then, huh?
Everybody did pay.
I know, of course.
Shit, I remember the Omni had our old sound man, he was one of the main guys at the Omni, and they had a room at the Omni that was full of mainly Marshall cabinets, like half-stack cabinets.
Yeah, you had to leave if you didn't have your ticket money.
If you didn't have your ticket money, they'd take a piece of your gear, which I thought was the lamest fucking thing in the world,
Wow.
It was unbelievable.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, but anyway, it's funny because as you move through these things, some of the, a lot of club owners, a lot of promoters, great people, fabulous people, but there's always those occasional,
right.
Let's call them dickheads.
Yeah.
That when you're young, they're shitting all over you, but then when you get into a position where you're actually selling tickets and making the money, all of a sudden they're your buddy and they're the nicest guy in the world, So we all knew a few of those guys.
Well, it really is the business, like
it doesn't have to be like that.
I know. Unfortunately, you're
but
like
those people, and I'm sure you know people in the comic world, as I've known people, that piss down the ladder. It's not good to piss down the ladder.
Yeah.
At some point, you're lower on the ladder, and somebody's gonna remember being pissed on.
It's so true, And
I mean, there's a lot of sayings and metaphors you can use. The people you meet on the way up are the same people you're gonna meet on the way down. Blah,
yeah.
Blah, blah. But in general, as you move through life, just try not to be an asshole. That's
the truth right there.
Then good things come your way. That's what I've noticed.
Thanks for doing it. I know you hate doing interviews, right? It's like, who wants to do that? You're 100 years into the
game. I like having a good conversation. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
A good interview is a good conversation.
That's all it is, man. It's so true. It's like, I'm just happy to have you on. I love the Bay Area, and I think I can't even believe the music I saw growing up, and it's great to see guys like you still out there, completely relevant and putting out amazing records, which, by the way, thanks for that vinyl. It's so cool looking, man. I whipped it out, put it on, and it's just crazy, the colors on it,
Yeah, it looks like somebody spilt a box of crayons on the heater.
It's so good, man. It's so good. You got some killer hi-fi stuff at home?
No.
I'm
the worst, man.
Really? You're not a vinyl guy, huh?
I have a turntable. I have all my old vinyl. I started getting into it, and I'm like, yeah, it's a pain in the ass, and it's all scratchy sounding,
Yeah.
I don't, I like pushing a button and just having shit play.
Yeah, I'm both ways. Like, if I'm working around the house, I don't want to be fucking, I gotta go turn it over. But if I'm at home and I just want to sit down and go, all right, let's throw on this record exactly how they want.
I love the tactile element of it. I love all that. Being able to see the artwork like that again. That's wonderful. It's not my thing to sit down and put a record on. I'm just going, I got old Chryslers to fix, man.
Yeah. How many you got?
I got a handful.
Why'd you choose Chrysler?
My dad was my dad, my stepdad, my uncles, and they were all Chrysler guys. I mean, it was Fords and Chryslers, but mainly Chryslers. So I inherited my mom's old Chrysler, which is up in the barn, and it's just the bats and the rats have been living in it for years. But I also have my grandfather's old 64 300, which is he kept under blankets in the garage, so I have that. I have an old 55 Imperial, just like my dad used to have, and I've got an old 61 300. I just love old Chryslers.
Wow. Yeah, are you a Porsche guy? I think I asked you that last time. You said someone in your crew is, right?
Yeah, one of our crew guys.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, hey, the difference between a Porsche and a porcupine.
No.
On a porcupine, the pricks are on the outside. Come on!
Oh! You fucking guy, man. Wow. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Let There Be Talk. Thank you so much for doing the show. For real, man.
Hi, man. Yeah, no worries.
Looking forward to seeing you tonight and also on this summer tour.
Get your Goblin Rock on, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Keep the candles lit.